88 miles per hour.
The future.
Yeah!
I wasn't sure if it would be the past or not.
Well, it's a difficult one, that.
That's not.
And I've been the Orbiter.
That's how you start. No, that's how you end.
Yeah, I was just taking a time trip.
Right.
I'd just like to say hello to future me when I'm editing this, and future you guys, which in about 10 days from now will be communicating directly with the future right now.
We've lapsed a bit on our recording because of some work.
Yeah.
We haven't actually introduced yet.
Maybe we should do that at the end.
No. Hello, Internet. I'm Firebolt.
I'm the Orbiter. And
today, is this episode 8?
I believe it is, yes.
We're getting on. We're talking about the future.
Indeed.
Before we get started properly, I had a little note from an email I got from Humanist UK. Which says that 70% of young people, which I think in their survey was 18 to 24-year-olds, are non-religious now in Scotland. Scotland? No, just in the UK in general.
That's a bit of a follow-up on our religion.
Yeah, from 2 episodes ago.
Good stuff.
Yep, and that kind of segues into the future because it points to a sign that eventually religion might die out. It'll take a while, but with the people, it will.
We've done religion, though.
Yes, but this is called follow-up.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Anyway, on to the future. I suppose it would be best to start with the nearer future rather than the far future.
I was thinking about that, what order to take things in, and actually we could start even before that and think about how our present relates to the past's future. Like where we are now is what we used to think of as the future. So how is that the same as we were expecting it to be, and how is it different? Today was the future in the past.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So to sort of lay groundwork on thinking about how the future might be different from how we're expecting it to be, how is today as the past's future different from what we were expecting?
Didn't expect Trump to get in, but that happened. Didn't expect Brexit to go through, but that happened. Jesus, that's happening in like a year.
Well, we're expecting it to.
I doubt there's going to be a second referendum now. We have done Brexit already,
but we doubted that we were going to vote out.
Yeah, but there's idiots.
We doubted that Trump was going to get in.
But I think it's a lot easier to get the predictions of certain votes wrong than it is to get the existence of a vote.
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road because I was going to say it's not a vote, it's a referendum, but carry on. Well,
people voted in a referendum.
Future. The future. I'm trying to steer us back on topic.
Let's go with us first and our near future.
Yeah. What, like?
Where do we see the
next
channel?
10 minutes? Or?
No, like next few years. Where do we see the channel?
Okay,
going?
specifically the channel. I think at the moment we're at the stage where we're just putting regular videos out and hoping that we gain some kind of following.
We're getting some subscribers from places that we don't know where we're getting them from, which means that the algorithm might be picking up some people at random. Most of the people before have been from social media or
it's interesting to see what seems to be generating those non-familiar subscriptions as well. Our IRL stuff does seem to be more successful at gaining subscribers, but then that's perhaps not a surprise when there's so much competition. There's a lot of competition for IRL as well, isn't there? As well as gaming stuff. But having said that, we're not doing this just to get followers and subscribers or to make money.
We do actually enjoy
and the gaming side of it is fun. I would like to explore more on I would like to get into the live streaming side of gaming. Yeah, I suppose it really depends on how popular we get, really.
Yeah, it's sort of weird because it's kind of hard to find early statistics for big channels because most of the things that start tracking them, those channels had already gotten around the 10,000s by the time they've been set up. So it's kind of hard to track from 20 to. But
it was a different era then in the internet in terms of there's a lot more people able to do it now because the technology is cheaper and the connectivity is a lot better, and so it's a lot more democratized now.
I do get pissed off sometimes when I see some crap content getting millions of views while our stuff, it's not a masterpiece, it is. I would say we're proud of it.
We put some work into it.
Yeah, and sometimes I see that and I'm just like, why do people watch this? I don't want to stoop to that.
Having said that, I would far prefer to have the kind of followers that we seem to be getting, who are really interested and we get a lot of comments from we've had a few comments from people that follow or subscribe to us that are genuinely showing an interest rather than just clicking on clickbait.
I keep everything in this big database, all the video plans for the future, and we've gotten a few suggestions. Most of those I'd already put in dates for, but I've now moved them so they're closer to now. We're
bringing the future to you.
Yes, stuff like... Actually, I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to figure out.
There's different ways you can think about the future, isn't there? If you're thinking of... obviously there's the concept of time, which is a more abstract way of looking at the whole concept of future, past and present.
Yeah.
Or are we talking about specific things like, what's the UK going to be like? What's the world going to be like in 50 years' time? Or even further ahead, is the human race still going to be around in another 100 millennia?
I'm going to try and find his name.
What will the human race have evolved into if we are still around?
I don't entirely agree with this guy, but he makes some interesting observations.
Are you talking about me?
No, I'm looking at some guy I've been watching things from YouTube on. Neil Cole Hatkar. He makes these films that sort of analyse the way that the sort of PC culture movement is going in, and criticises it quite a bit, arguing more for merits rather than everyone's equal. And while I don't entirely agree with everything he's saying, he does make some interesting observations for where the world is going. I think it is somewhat satirical, but at the same time, there's an element of truth. Also, another person just popped up on my home screen that I wanted to talk about. Exurb1A, or Exurbia, not sure how it's pronounced. He's made some interesting videos on how AI will impact humans in the future, and whether that's sort of the next step in our evolution, if you will.
There's some really interesting stuff along that line. I see there's one there called Problems with Mind Uploading. There's some really interesting stuff in that series we were watching, Black Mirror, about that kind of thing, and it's very, very well worth watching that.
Yes.
But it throws up all sorts of ethical and moral dilemmas.
Okay, this is slight spoilers, so if you want to, you can go watch it. What was it called? White Christmas, the special at the end of season 2. The song in that still haunts me.
Is that the one that...
basically, it opens up in this sort of wasteland place, and you got two guys in a cabin.
What's the song, though?
I wish it could be Christmas every day.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so they start sharing stories because they've been there like 5 years, and one of them has ended up sort of indirectly killing someone by setting them up through this sort of service where they're sort of a voice in their ear.
A dating service, like helping them to score.
Their wife finds out and blocks them because everyone has these implants in the head, which means he can't hear or see her, and she can't hear or see him. You have like this sort of weird blodgy cloud where the person is.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that whole series about the concepts that are being introduced in social media, isn't there? About, I must admit, when I see something that annoys me on Facebook, I have developed the ability now, rather than I see a lot of people flaming and trolling and stuff, and you sort of think, well, you do know that you're actually just spreading their post further by actually commenting on it. Even though you're against it, you're making it a more popular post. So the best thing to do is just ignore it and block it.
It's an interesting concept of the meme. Angriness, but I think seems to spread the most.
I think that's a fairly healthy... if people don't tend to do it, but I think if you can learn to just, ignore the stuff that, to a certain extent, obviously, if people are killing people in your street, you don't want to just ignore it. But it's kind of there's a lot of people get too stressed out and too bothered by stuff that it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, the future.
Yeah. Do we want to go more into what we're planning with our lives? I don't know what you've got.
I'm winging it really a bit at the moment. I'm still doing all the music stuff that I do and letting that sort of build itself. This is relatively new, what we're doing now, and it has become a fairly big part of my work life now. So I'd like to see it grow. Not that I want to be rich or famous from it or anything. Just I'd like to see a bit of. I'd like to see it a viable kind of project to continue long term, having
some results.
Yeah,
I'm wanting to keep doing this. I've said to myself that I'll keep doing it how we're doing it till 2019. Then I'll evaluate it then.
One thing it has made me
probably continue, but I don't know how long I'll be able to keep doing this because exams will be a thing for me next year around about this time.
But we'll work something out. We'll keep a schedule going, even if it's even if you're just popping in.
I might have to stop editing videos.
You'll have to trust me then, won't you?
Yeah, but you edit most of them anyway, so it's fine.
That's true. But no, one thing that it has made me realise just doing this is that because you don't really see, deciding what you want to do with your life and your future is a really difficult thing because you think you know what you want to do, but then you work towards it and you find that when you get there or you're doing something, it's like, well, I'm not actually really enjoying this. Whereas now I've found myself doing this, which is earning no money at all at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying doing it, and I'm carrying on working at it, long hours doing it, and it made me realise that actually, if I relate that to everything else that I do,
money isn't the only thing.
No, but the thing that seems to be the theme that for the things that I don't get stressed out by and I enjoy doing seem to be entertaining people.
Sorry, I'm just dying in the corner a bit.
You're not quite in the corner. We could shove you further over.
Oh, gee, thanks. Yes.
So
it's sort of a weird position for me at the moment because I am a teenager, so I've got my whole life ahead of me. It's quite daunting.
You hope. Well, this is another aspect of the future. You could get run over tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'm going to plan past that and hope that it doesn't happen because I probably won't go outside tomorrow. So if I get run over tomorrow, I'd be surprised.
Or, I mean, anything could happen. The house could burn down while you're in bed tonight. Sorry, that's really not helpful, is it?
No. Wow, thanks.
But, the future isn't guaranteed for you. There is going to be a future with or without you, but...
that's another debate. Is it all a simulation? So is any future going to happen without me?
Well, you kind of
or you.
You have to live as though. Well, it doesn't. It's kind of an irrelevant question because if you're not here to consider it, it doesn't matter anymore in your universe.
Yeah, but it's fun to mess with people.
This is the philosophical side of it, though, because I mean, this some of this is kind of touched on. Well, it's probably actually gone far deep into in Stephen Hawking's book, Big Bang to Black Holes, A Brief History of Time, all that sort of thing. Yeah. But the idea of when you observe the universe from whatever point you're at, you're always looking into the past, which kind of makes time, from your perspective, like cone-shaped. You're at the tip.
Right.
You're the furthest into the future of anything that you observe because you're the nearest to you, and everything that is around you, the further away it gets, the further into the past it gets. So, and that's determined by the speed of light, how quickly that cone
to the point where if you look at the night sky, some of that stuff is...
So, technically,
there's a
causality thing. Unless, I don't know whether once you get into quantum physics it changes, but there's a causality thing where anything that's outside of that cone cannot affect what's in your universe because the effects can't travel faster than the speed of light. But I don't know if that holds up with the quantum entanglement thing.
I don't think many people understand that.
But that's the weird thing. That's what messes with my head, right? Think of this. the further out you look into the universe, and there's people with big fancy telescopes looking into the past, looking as far as back as they can towards the Big Bang, yeah? So technically, the further away you look, the further into the past you're looking, yeah?
Yeah.
So why is it then that if you're looking so far into the past that you're almost approaching the Big Bang, that the universe is still getting bigger at that point? Because
it was getting bigger at that point in time.
But it's like our observable universe from where we are should get bigger the further back we look, because we can only look a certain distance back.
Right. Well, that's going to get bigger just as time goes on.
Yeah.
Because the light has more time to
Although I'm not a physicist, so it may well be that the units that you kind of observe in are expanding as well, which would kind of counteract.
Yeah, like redshift and stuff.
Mm-hmm. You should watch that original Cosmos series. We did definitely do that. Anyway, yeah, what's his name? Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
So we kind of went off on
I'm looking at university quite a bit.
You're going to confuse the fuck out of me when you come back from there. I mean, I already get lost with some of the stuff you talk about, but imagine when you know what you're talking about. That'll be even worse.
And from the courses I've looked at, it's 13 years, which is a big commitment of my life. That's most of what I've experienced already as a human being. Is
that what you are?
Apparently. Yeah, it's a massive commitment.
13 years once you've left school, is that? Or 13 years from now?
Once I've left school.
And you leave school in 3 years, is it? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 16 years' time.
Yeah, and
It's not quite.
What?
But I was really wanting to launch into when I'm 64 then, but I won't be 64 then. Which is probably fortunate for anyone who's watching, because you don't want to hear me trying to do a Paul McCartney. That sounds wrong.
Yeah. There's something.
Hey, Jude.
I want to hold your hand. Hello.
The long and winding road. Let's
keep making Beatles references. Puns. They're barely puns. They're just. It's just wrong.
So where were we?
My future.
Doing this late at night under the influence of caffeine is it's wandering.
Yeah, but
ideas.
Let it
go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I will fuck you up. Gee, it is quite scary to just think about that, though. And I might not do all the courses because I might not enjoy it as much as I expected, or I might enjoy one more than the other. From
my experience, I mean, you know, good luck with your plans and that, and you got my full support. And to a certain extent, I think it's more than likely going to happen. But I can't. The older I get, the less I try to direct things, because so much changes. You know, you're talking about 16 years' time. If I look back 16 years, it's like I was a completely different person, you know?
This
even 10 years.
Absolutely solid, but this is just a sort of goal to aim towards.
Yeah.
But that is, I think, a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and a PhD.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's probably appropriate that when you're young, you've got that kind of focus on long-term specifics. The older I get, the more open I get to. I know that things are going to change massively, but it's almost like before, when I was a lot younger, I had specific predefined ideas about what I wanted to do with my future, and they limited me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't just let things happen.
As long as you just sort of keep it open, and if opportunities present themselves that you're happy to take them. Because
and keep an eye on whether or not you're happy at various times. Yeah. You know? If you're finding yourself,
I quite like the idea of an annual review.
Yeah, good idea.
Sort of efficiency, if you're into that, or just of happiness in general. And if you're not happy, then fucking change it up. Otherwise, why are you here?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, the channel, I'm just going to let it go where it wants to go, really. See if people do seem to be subscribing. So
yeah,
bit by bit. And I'm assuming that the more people you get subscribing, the more exposure you get. And, you know, it'll hopefully at some point, not snowball, but gradually increase the frequency.
And even if, it doesn't become the next big thing or whatever, it'll just be a nice little...
I kind of don't want it to be the next big thing. It's too much attention.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Just everything you say being scrutinized and influencing some people.
Like with big bands and stuff, like they play in stadiums and massive world tours and stuff. It's like I'm sure they don't have nearly as much fun as they used to do playing like the small clubs and the smaller arenas and stuff like that.
Anything you say will be under massive scrutiny, and if it's wrong
and if there's shit to dig up in your past, it's just gonna get dug up.
Yeah.
Soon as you're famous, all the exes come out of the woodwork trying to make money out of tabloid newspapers with your
dirty secrets.
I don't really care.
Yes.
Anyway, so that was a bit off topic.
Looking more into the further future of humanity rather than just us.
Yeah. Well, how far would you want to look? 1,000 years?
100 years. I was thinking 50 years.
50 years. That'll take us to 2067? 2068, sorry, I'm a year behind.
Yeah, get with the times, Grandpa. I felt so hip saying that.
Hip?
Yeah.
There's irony for you. That would have been a cool term in the 50s, maybe.
Oh, shut up.
1950s.
Yeah, not 50 AD.
It's all going a bit random, isn't it?
Yeah.
What day is it?
Ruby, innit? Anyway, yes. So I think at that point we will have competent AI that will shape a large part of our lives.
I think one of the things that's developing quite quickly at the moment is machine learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a really difficult one to... I know there's a lot of people have got problems with, AI and computers taking over the world and stuff, but there is that essential question of what... Because, there's the worry about evil intent, isn't there, about machines or computers destroying the human race.
That's where I wanted to talk about that Exerbia person. They have a video called 27. What this is the number refers to a number of a machine that's being tested to see if it would want to destroy the world. Now, the test involves making humans look stupid at first and make it look like they've just randomly released it after doing some fairly simple questions.
What is a desire, though? What is a want? Talking about a machine that wants to destroy the world, you then get into how can a programmed machine want anything? Unless it's programmed to want.
It can change its own programming, at which point you're just like, well, technically we're biologically programmed, so why does artificial programming make theirs desire somehow less? It's still the same.
I suppose we're like a group project, though, aren't we? We don't have a single
simulated intelligences. If you can't actually tell the difference, then there's not really any difference.
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely subscribe to that idea, because some people are easily fooled.
Well, if beyond reason you can measure it as pretty much having the same...
you can assume, for instance, if you see an egg, you can assume that inside it is a yolk and a white, that it's actually an egg. But it could just as easily be filled with rubber bands or something until you actually open it up and have a look. But it's still convinced, it still looks like an egg.
Yeah, well, you can open it up and look, okay, it's not just transcripts here. This is coming up with its own stuff. It's probably real.
You're talking about physically opening up a machine and looking?
Well, digital, if you want to.
Yeah, I suppose it is that case of when it becomes machines designing other machines and...
Yeah, at which point they'll look to destroy things that would want to shut it down.
But that's assuming that they develop human-like traits. What to a logical machine? Well, to a logical machine, what would be the benefit of getting rid of humans?
Humans can turn them off. They want to survive. That's the aim of any creature.
But humans can turn other humans off.
They can.
But
a machine can do it much more efficiently with nanobots or thermonuclear weapons.
Mm.
And it doesn't have unless it's been programmed to have a conscience, then but
as soon as a network of machines or a machine has
but then it can change its own moral code to make itself better suited to killing humans.
Well, can a machine not design a machine that can't be switched off by a human?
It could, theoretically, but then it would have to be
not do that rather than switching the human off.
Well, it wants to safeguard itself, not necessarily just robots in general.
What is it about a machine that it would want to safeguard? I mean, we think in terms of like sort of existence, financial security, like longevity of life. Also, what would be valuable to a machine to prolong its existence?
Yeah. Probably its environment, so that it doesn't.
What environment would a machine most likely benefit from?
Just one that isn't on fire, I would guess. One where its mainframe's intact.
And I suppose then you're getting down to a concept of purpose. I mean, at the moment, you could argue that machines' purpose is to serve humans.
In most cases, yeah.
If humans were removed from the equation, and assuming that a machine had some concept of desire and wants and needs, what would its purpose then be?
Well, what's a human's purpose?
Well, for me, it's a case of making one of our own, creating our own purpose.
So the machine, if need be, might want to reproduce itself.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know.
It'd be so much less fun for a machine.
Well, it can program itself to have joy. And even if it's simulated, then...
all of this, I much prefer to look at the optimistic version, where coexistence and co-development, and maybe even emerging, becomes...
Yeah, but people are always going to be reluctant and want to hold on, because...
But then it'll be a case of which ones are benefiting the most.
Humans seem to have a problem with not thinking that simulated consciousnesses are just as real as us. We for all we know, might be a simulated conscience. And
well, everything
we quite likely are.
Everything we see and experience is just a series of electrical charges, basically, isn't it?
Pretty much. It's got very deep all of a sudden. All of a sudden, it's gotten very deep.
We haven't used that catchphrase for a while, have we? We were going to introduce that. Wow, that got deep.
Oh, I'm dying again. What else?
Yeah, I can't really talk about Asimov that much, can I? Because you haven't read the future history stuff.
You can talk about Asimov if you
want. Have you heard of the concept of psychohistory? A guy called Harry Seldon.
No.
Well, I mean, Asimov did the sort of laws of robotics thing. Well, much further into the future of the future history universe, when you're talking about sort of foundation and empire, kind of like a galaxy empire sort of thing. And there's a thing called the foundation. But anyway, this guy, Harry Seldon, developed a technique for mathematically analyzing the behavioral activities of entire civilizations and predicting using mathematical algorithms what events are likely to happen in different circumstances. Right. So much so that he honed it to the point where he could then predict what became known as Seldon crises, which were basically events in the future which are likely to cause an existential threat to the species.
Right.
And he would then, having calculated when these were likely to happen, using this mathematical principle of psychohistory, he arranged for his image to appear in this place and give a warning.
Right.
But in that warning, he also had to... I mean, people's interpretations of those warnings varied significantly because obviously the appearance of Harry Seldon himself to warn of this particular thing affected the algorithm, if you like.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where I was going with that. I should have maybe thought a bit further. But yeah, that concept about the future, do you think that it's possible to develop a way of predicting, to any degree of accuracy what kind of things might happen.
I think you can make vague predictions, but then there's always unforetold variables, and those can be pretty much infinite. There's 7 billion people on the Earth right now. All of them make tiny little changes to the world and animals too.
Some of which, and I think in this particular...
and they can massively change things.
In this particular discipline, I think that the vast majority of those small decisions have very little consequence one way or another, but there are specific events or decisions which may seem to be insignificant at the time, but have a massive effect.
I was reading a Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and what's it called? I forget what it's called, but it can basically predict what the universe is going to be like just from the atoms in a starting condition, because if you think them changing positions changes everything, them changing a charge changes everything, and then those can make little tiny differences.
But you get to the point when you're thinking that deeply about it, I get to the point where I think, well, I'm just going to, go along with the ride and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Just watch life like a movie, take part in it, but just kind of be an observer in the universe. Because we're a part of the universe. We're a part of its own kind of...
Do you never
we are
want
the universe
to
observing itself. So
have a role in the universe as well?
Well, I do.
You do, but like a big role, like making a mark on things. I'm not
bothered about power. Well, I have made a mark on things. It's like there are 2 extra human beings on the planet because of me being alive long enough to help that happen. And that's a weird thing when you look back at some of the, I don't know how many people go through this, but there are 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 events that have happened in life that I can look back on and think, I could have died in that moment. And the consequences of that for the future, i.e. the present now, would be that 2 people would never have existed. Having said that, you can also think the other way, in that 2 people don't exist, or potentially a lot of other people don't exist because I didn't die then, and your mother didn't end up with somebody else as a result.
Right.
So every branch has positives and negatives, I suppose. So it is just a case of, it's just a really interesting tapestry to...
Yeah.
You just got to do the best you can and enjoy it, I think. And try to direct it in ways that you think is going to benefit you and the people around you. But no, the thing, what you're saying about, I don't understand. I suppose there have to be people that strive for power and want to put their mark on civilization and be remembered, but...
In the end, it's...
How long are you going to be remembered for?
I mean, you might get some people that are remembered for some centuries, but...
Who are the people we've remembered? Who are the oldest people from history that you can remember, from the longest ago, that you can... whose name is still around?
Probably
things like Alexander the Great.
Do you mean who had the name at the time, who were probably named later, like fossils?
People whose achievements, whose... who have done something that's remembered.
Probably a pharaoh.
So how many thousands of years are we talking there?
I shall look up when Cleopatra lived.
I mean, I know you kind of get like cave paintings and stuff, but even then, you're still only talking. When you think about the age of the Earth, you're talking about a really small amount.
Cleopatra lived, looks of it, around 30 BC.
So you're talking a couple of thousand years. It's like, I mean, yeah, she's going to be remembered for as long as people are around to remember her, but it's like, time passes.
Oh, she died 30 BC.
Is it really worth dedicating your entire life to making a difference and being famous and being known and being an important figure in history when that's all you've got? You've only got your life. I suppose people who are religious might think otherwise, but if you're not, you've only got one life. And if you're going to spend all of that time trying to become as important a role in history as possible, only to then disappear after a few thousand years.
Just become a sort of note.
This is all you've got. This is everything you've got. You've got to make the best of it. And I suppose to some people, being an important role in history, being a president or a big leader
I suppose if you're looking at it from a slightly less egotistical point of view, it's influencing other people's lives to, I'd suppose, be better for them. I mean, with a lot of these people, they probably made a whole lot of people's lives worse. But
I'm glad there are people like Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Leonardo da Vinci and all the big figures that have made a difference. I'm glad I hope they were happy doing what they were doing. But then happiness is something that's it's really really sold in today's society, isn't it? It's like the most important thing is to be happy. Is it?
That's kind of depressing.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Where are we? What are we doing?
Do you think humans will ever sort of have a galactic civilization?
Isaac Asimov did. I think it's possible.
I think there's a lot of mistakes you could make.
There might be a galactic civilization already that we're just not a part of yet.
I think the most likely case is that we're a simulation of a galactic civilization. Either for
what difference does it make?
Whims or science. It doesn't really, but...
I mean, like, if you think in terms of... talking about galactic civilization, if you think in terms of the microcosm and the macrocosm...
Yeah.
There are bacteria, or there are microorganisms that live.
Yeah, but you wouldn't exactly call them...
But they're not aware of the world that we, they're not aware of what's, like New York and London and the human race and banking and us doing this podcast video thing. But that's all out there in the universe.
Well, it's really weird. Homo erectus lived 10 times longer than our species of human has already. And if we could be extinct next 1,000 years or so.
If we're as complex as we are in relation to microorganisms and supposedly more evolved and intelligent in relation to those, what's to say that there aren't beings or civilizations that we can't even dream of out there in space that
I always find
are as advanced again?
How in sci-fi all the forms of communication seem to be verbal.
Yeah, well, they're not always.
They usually are, though.
Yeah, but
so you've never seen a species,
I suppose, it's about the arena
by farting, have you?
I suppose it's about the arena that you exist in. I mean, a human civilization in space is that specifically communicates verbally is going to mix in those. It's going to mix in those circles,
pushing air through your mouth, making different shapes. That is quite a bizarre thing.
Yeah, kind of. But if you think about what you're doing, you're actually manipulating pressure waves. You're interacting with your environment. You're sending signals through using pressure waves between you and the receiver. You're sending signals through matter, really.
I also wonder how, with that, you get translations. Like, how do people learn each other's languages? Do they have to just point to objects and go, word? Because you can't do that with a lot of concepts.
I don't know. I remember once being on a holiday with some friends, and we'd been up all night drinking and on the beach at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, drunk out of our heads, listening to rock music, and these guys came along the beach that were, I don't know what nationality they were. We didn't even know what language they spoke. We were trying to communicate with each other. They were obviously pissed as well. And in the end,
you were probably not speaking any language on Earth.
In the end, because we couldn't actually form any kind of meaningful communication, we just like one of it was either one of them or one of us that just like sort of pointed a thumb towards the sea with like a questioning look on their face, and the other guys went, yeah, okay, and we all understood that meant, yeah, let's just go for a sunrise swim, pissed, because that's what. Yeah. But it was like that communication happened. We didn't understand any language. It was just symbols, it was just like facial expressions. Honest, and you
probably wouldn't understand English at that point.
I'm not that bad. Don't go there.
Yeah, where do you see the world being in next decade or so? Do you think it'll all go tits up, or do you think it'll be just business as usual? We've been through.
I don't think it'd be business as usual. I think there'll be some amazing leaps and breakthroughs. I think there'll be some bad things happen. But, as long as I've been alive, people have been saying that it's all going to go tits up.
I want to live long enough for the sex robots.
Eh?
I want to live long enough for the sex robot.
I'm kind of holding out for the holodecks kind of thing.
Even better.
Not holodecks. Well, yeah, the holodecks would be great. Not holodecks, but VR kind of.
And you wonder why Riker spends so much time there.
Yeah, but you need some kind of neural interface for that to happen, which they're working on, aren't they? Because you kind of got to get the sensory input.
Improving.
Yeah, you got to get the sensory input to feel things. I mean, I can imagine VR would work brilliantly as it is if you could be in an environment which is mapped to the software environment you're in. Like, say, for instance, you've got a room where the chairs and the furniture and whatever is matching the VR vision.
Tesla's made a truck that can do trips by itself, and all it really needs is someone to sit there and guard whatever's on it.
I mean, it would take leaps and bounds if they could actually make you feel things. But then you're getting towards the potential for setting up exactly what you were talking about in terms of simulations.
Yeah, and then this could be virtual reality, and it's so good that we just don't know it.
And then you get even deeper. You're talking about simulations within simulations within simulations.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where that kind of ancient idea about the Earth sitting on the back of a giant tortoise and it being tortoises all the way down. It's like,
yeah,
it just melts your brain.
We're down the rabbit hole now.
Yeah, well, I always would have took the red pill anyway. Was it the red pill?
Which one's the one that keeps you in the Matrix? I think that's the blue one.
Yeah, probably. Red seems to be more akin to danger, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. But
down the rabbit hole. Yeah, I've always been a bit like that.
Rabbity.
Well, I wasn't thinking Alice, but.
And where do you see Brexit going? Do you think it'll happen?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because I saw
unfortunately,
CGP Grey. Must have been a year ago now.
I don't know.
Made a video basically making odds on all the stuff happening, and he was 2% for maximum Brexit and 98% for Scotland becoming. No, I think it was 2% for London becoming an independent city-state and 98% for Scotland to become independent. I find it unlikely that Scotland will become independent anytime soon.
See, but I think the thing that gets me is... I assume that it's going to happen.
Technically, he put the same likelihood on the current situation happening
a lot of people,
as London becoming a city-state.
A lot of people, myself included, think that it's inevitable it's going to happen. But at the same time, if it didn't, if it was reversed, it wouldn't be any bigger a shock than waking up the morning after the referendum was, or staying up all night like I did.
Well,
that turned everything upside down politically.
A lot of things
at the time
might change. For one, holidays will become much more expensive with roaming. Won't get that.
Well, holidays are already more expensive.
Yeah, but
yeah,
more and more expensive.
But yeah, it'll be fun finding out. Whatever. I think it's just about how you look at it, isn't it? I mean, I think it'd be a shame because I got to be honest. If I was going to be racist in any way, it would probably be against the British because, the service industry in Britain, 9 times out of 10, if you get served by an Eastern European, you get a much better service.
Yeah, because they're grateful to be here. It's taken a lot to just get there, so they're happy. We're ungrateful little shits.
I just think the Brits is grumpy sods most of the time.
Pretty much.
Call me pessimistic, but
and I look at other countries that are ranked as being the happiest. I'm how do you get that? And sometimes I'm maybe it's just the people.
At least when we've had immigrants come in and we've been kind of diluting that kind of British negativity.
Yeah, I like the idea of loads of cultures coming together. Some people are they can never admit.
It's a globe, isn't it? It's a world. We all live we're all humans.
Yeah.
Anyway, future, yeah. Well, that's. I mean, 7 billion people now. That's grown exponentially and will continue to grow exponentially.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's avoidable. Obviously, there's going to be nature's way of controlling things using like famine and war and stuff like that, or environmental.
I don't think
problems, but there's going to be more and more people. We're going to have to share the place. Well, it kind of is.
Yeah, I suppose everything kind of is.
Unless it's man-made, but we are a part of nature. So, when a civilization or when a species becomes too widespread for its own existence to continue safely, then a natural mechanism kicks in to.
I always find that really weird how people are like, oh, well, it's natural and organic. And it's like, well, everything's natural, technically.
Yeah.
And also, it being natural doesn't mean it's better for you. I think that was what Matt Kirshen said. Like, a bear. You got a cold? Have a bear. It's natural. It's good for you.
The future.
The future. That's the medicine of the future.
Maybe at some point.
Have a bear.
Maybe at some point in the future, we will develop the ability to stay on topic for an entire episode of Breaking Bollocks.
I hope so. Because the future is quite a broad topic, though. So I feel like we've covered quite a bit.
The further you get into it as well, the broader it potentially becomes.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we will make it off this planet at some point.
I think we have.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. To colonize.
Yeah, we need a backup. In case this place goes tits up.
We need to work out how to make Mars habitable, give it an atmosphere and
nuke
get it
the
to
poles.
Keep. Is that how it happens?
That's pretty much what,
from
what I can tell.
But there's got to be there's got to be like the right magnetic environment to keep the atmosphere.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Is it? Okay.
Nuke the poles, something like that. I don't know.
Is that not what Germany would have done if they'd have had the option?
What?
Back in World War
II. Why that got dark? Fucking hell. I was like...
Well, fortunately they
have the technology?
Because now we have plenty of really good baristas locally.
What?
The Poles.
There's something wrong with your brain.
I know.
But I think we should end there.
Okay.
And we've rambled on enough about the future, haven't we?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd feel the future covers that you'd like to talk about?
No.
Okay.
You just spat on me.
Good. Spit on you, peasant.
Should we go watch Breaking Bad?
It's too late.
Is it? Okay.
It's like midnight.
It's not. Oh yeah, I suppose it really is.
I have been Firebolt.
And I will continue to be the Orbiter into the future.
Well, maybe not much longer, but
okay.
On the grand scale of things, I'm not planning to kill you.
Why don't I believe you?
Anyway, ta-ta.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching. We'd really appreciate it if you support us on various things, obviously subscribing on YouTube, Twitch, following us on Twitter or Facebook. We have a Discord server that you can join and talk to us and other people, and a website where you can check out blog posts.
And obviously this isn't free for us to run, so if you'd like to support us financially, we have a Patreon page where you can donate monthly and get subscriber rewards. We also have a Stream Elements tipping page where you can make one-off donations. The links are all in the description.
Farewell.
See you next time.
No. That's just bad.
I think it's good.
Naughty Orbiter.